Okay, we're getting off to a little bit of a late start. I don't think we have a big agenda this evening. Hopefully we can get back on track. We do start meetings with public input. Is there anybody, Brian, who has signed up to talk? I think he was the gentleman who was back here and he left. Dave? Nothing? Okay. I'll give the opportunity. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this or any other subject before the town? Okay. Then we'll move on. Kathy, for the record, all board members are present. We do have a set of minutes, gentlemen.
Second.
That was from December 1st, moved by Larry, second by Gil. Does anybody have anything they wish to change? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? That is approved. Our bill pay this week is $159,600.82. The voucher numbers 2016-2446 through 2570. Can I have a motion to pay these bills? Moved by Art. Second. Second by Randy. Any bills that anybody wishes to hold or change? If not, then all in favor of paying signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? That's approved. Paul couldn't make it tonight. Rich, anything going on in water sewer?
Just like to bring you up to date on the Pleasant Drive pump station generator project over there. The concrete building is up and on site. They just delivered the generator the other day, so things are moving along with that. Hopefully within the next month or so, we can be up and running and back to where it is. That's where we're at with that.
Good enough.
The only other thing I got this tonight is consider motion that according to our accountants and Mr. Mondo there, we would request a 10 cent per 1,000 gallon increase in the price of water for next year. Bringing us up to $1.90 per 1,000 gallons.
Yeah, that is in the motion. We can get to it at that point.
Okay, very good.
And what is your opinion on that, if I can ask?
I think with raises and the price of insurance and everything for workers and stuff, we gotta come up with a little bit. Equipment's costing more and more every year. Price of different parts to repair a hydrant now. It's almost I gotta weigh the difference whether to put new parts in or to pick it up and put a whole new unit. If I can get the parts for the old stuff. So price of everything's going up, and fortunately we're still on the lower end of the scale, I believe, across the county for our water rate.
I think our audit rate in 2013 said because it was a wet year, that made many people using higher in water and gas.
Exactly.
And we actually, our water district lost a little money that year.
2 years.
This year was a little better because it was a dry year, but can't really
Yeah, it was.
plan on that. We can't prepare more than anything.
Yeah, it was 14 and 15. We had very wet summers. Thank you, Rich. Mike Rinaldi, Recreation.
Okay. Last week we had our Christmas party over at the community center, and it was epic. I don't think you could have fit 5 more people in there. There's kind of an internal battle with me and some of the staff about moving it next door to the youth center. I'm probably going to lose that one, but I will keep trying. But I just wanted to review kind of some of our totals for the year quickly. This year we have 141 children enrolled in the youth center, which is up from 108 last year. This year we also had 256 registrants for t-ball, coach pitch, baseball, and softball. We have 187 registered for girls basketball, boys basketball. Summer camp totals finished, we had 117 registered, which was crazy. And then we had, for our activity days in the park, 67, which was a grand total of enrolled in just those programs were 768. The reason why I kind of put that together, I saw an article over the weekend about how enrollments in schools throughout the state is just like down over the last 15 years. So I looked into Niagara Wheatfield, and in 10 years we're down like 400, which is considerably less than a lot of districts surrounding. Students, enrollments are down in colleges as well. So it kind of perked my ear up a little bit. So all things considered, we have roughly 1,600 K to 8 students in town. That's including like St. John, St. Peter's, St. James, St. James. What did you say? Yes. So we're about half. We're tapped into half. So we have some room to grow, but it's encouraging. You know, we have a lot of kids that, you know, some of those kids are enrolled in multiple programs, so maybe it drops down from 760 to maybe 600, but I think it's definitely, we're in the right direction. We have room to go, though. And that's all I got.
Okay, Mark. Okay, thank you. Mike Clark? Anything with buildings? Again, you gave us the list of problems, which must be Brian doing fire surveys, and it's fail. I did actually see, I think, 3 passes on there. But there's no explanation of what's failing. Is there any way to get that? It could be failing because they forgot to wear a hairnet, or it could be failing because the fire extinguishers don't work. I'd only be concerned about important things if there's any. But I think out of probably 25 items on there, there are only maybe 3 that pass. Okay. Anything for Mike?
Did you want to explain real quick, Mike, the bids for the town clerk's office to us? How you went about the specs and stuff?
make sense to me, but. Well, we can bring that up again as the motion comes up a little later.
Thanks, Mike.
Are you gonna stick around?
Yes.
Thank you. Tim Zuber, Wendell.
Thank you. We only have one thing on our agenda this evening, and it's our planning board report. It actually only covers one planning meeting that we've had since the last town board summary, and that was the December 7th meeting. On that meeting, the first agenda item was a site plan for the Horvath cell tower installation. I think you've heard me repeat this about 5 times over the past 6 months, so I shortened up my summary a little bit. Again, the applicant proposes to build a cell tower on part of a 145-acre parcel at 6571 Shawnee Road. There'll be a 160-foot tall tower with a 4-foot lightning rod on top of it. At the meeting, the planning board actually held a public hearing, and the applicant presented the project to those who were in attendance at the meeting. After closing the public hearing, the planning board continued discussion of the project with the applicant. The planning board subsequently issued a negative declaration under seeker. No other action was taken. The applicant must now appear before the Zoning Board of Appeals for consideration of their height variance request, and then they actually returned back to the planning board for consideration of their special use permit and their site plan. The second and last item on the agenda was a sketch plan for Woodlands patio homes. This is another one that I think we talked about at our last summary, but the applicant proposes to rezone approximately 24 acres of land in the Woodlands Corporate Center expansion from M1 to a PUD and construct 61 patio homes. The plan currently proposes to construct a private loop road off the existing public road, which is Forest Park Way, as well as a private cul-de-sac also accessed from Forest Park Way. A walking path is proposed as a site amenity. The applicant was advised of several items to consider and address in a formal site plan submittal. These items include, but are not limited to, allowable density calculations based on an R1 zoning, town code requirements for the PUD, including definitions of a patio home, and open space calculations. The applicant was also informed that a joint meeting with both the town board and the planning board would be desired prior to the preparation of the formal site plan package. But the planning board is not quite ready to proceed with that joint meeting. The applicant is still sharpening his pencil, and no other action was taken. So that is our planning board summary. Any questions?
Now, will this Woodlands project fall under our new cluster, conservation cluster subdivision act we've passed?
It's actually a PUD, so that has its own requirements as opposed to a cluster.
So it won't fall under that.
I don't believe so, no.
But they're going to build patio homes.
Their plan is to build patio homes, yes.
With closer.
Right, the patio homes that we've seen, as opposed to cluster development, has smaller lots, but there's still a defined lot size that has yards and everything. The patio homes that we're seeing are usually like a postage stamp size lot that are the buildings I believe need to be 10 feet away from these property lines. So you're talking just a property line that's within 10 feet of your perimeter of your house. So
our new conservation cluster law doesn't supersede the patio law. Patio law is not a thing of the past now.
No, patio homes and
The home is a
PUDs are still.
definition. Conservation cluster is a separate section of code from a PUD, from a
So it's
planned
the
unit
layout.
zone.
The layout of how they're going to sit.
Well, a PUD can even include a lot of things. That include just even areas that are going to have businesses, restricted commercial, industrial. It can include all sorts of uses. What their intent is for this is to apply it to the PUD just for patio homes. There's actually already an existing PUD that's in this Woodlands Corporate Center expansion. It includes other patio homes, but also some office buildings and other, I think, senior housing type of
But for the
buildings
area
right
they
now.
want to put these, you've said they're going to come to the board and ask us to rezone.
Yes, a PUD, it has to be rezoned from an M1 to the PUD zoning. And again, the PUD has its own section in the code of requirements that needs to meet, its own density calculation, its own open space and homeowners association requirements. So it's not the same as our cluster subdivision. But again, they are still sharpening their pencils. They did not come on a level playing field.
They
I think
came in with a drawing with 61 properties built onto it, and I think, if I recall Walt's number, he felt they could fit 46, maybe 48. But the developer had not come in with a proper drawing that showed how many they could fit.
Right. What one of the requirements of the PUD is they have to do an initial layout to show how many standard lots that they would get into there under the R1 zoning. And what they did with their layout, where they showed they could get 60 homes, the PUD is all concentrated on the east side of the tracks, if you've got the corporate center expansion in your head. And when they did their initial single-family layout, they included the area that's on the south side of the road on the west side of the tracks. And they figured they could get 9 single-family residential lots in there. But then, when they did their comparison, they said, we're going to put all the PUD homes over here, and then left that area open for future development. I said, no, that's not how you do it. So they need to take a look and see if the actual density that they can get in there is something that they're going to want to move forward with. It may be, I'm sure everybody has that, they have that gold number in their head that if we have less than this, it's not worth our while, and I think that's what they're looking at right now.
And you did say that the cul-de-sac was a private cul-de-sac. It would
Yes.
not be plowed by the town.
The planning board was still strongly against having the cul-de-sac there, but there is some relief to it being private, and that the town wouldn't be plowing it, they wouldn't be maintaining it and paving it when that time comes. One of the things the applicant was going to be doing, though, was on their own, I believe, talking with the town highway superintendent and pitching the idea of private subdivisions and see if his opinions change, knowing that it would be private versus the public. Definitely still against the public cul-de-sac. So.
Anything else for Tim? If not, thank you, Tim. We'll move on to motions then.
Yeah, the first motion is to authorize the town supervisor to proceed forward, enter into finalize and sign an agreement with National Grid for the installation of 5 streetlights at the request of Rosal Homes. Applications which the town code requires is streetlight placement. Said streetlights are located as follows in the Parkside and Briar subdivision. A, at the corner of Brandywine and Forest Glen. B, cul-de-sac on Forest Glen. C, Parkside Lane at the beginning of Carly Lane. D, corner of Carly Lane. And E, cul-de-sac on Carly Lane. This resolution authorizes the supervisor to enter into the agreement with National Grid, assuming costs are in line with the proposed costs initially estimated by National Grid at the approximate amount of $1,416 annually. It is also resolved the estimated costs upon final review of the final agreement are significantly in excess of the estimated amount. The town board will review any excess charges prior to the installation agreement finalization.
Okay, does anybody wish to make that motion? I will go ahead and make that motion. Do we have a second? Go ahead, Larry. Well, we would still incur a portion of it. We would still incur the energy portion of it.
Well, I think we'd have to go through the process of figuring out how to amend the law, and me and Tim talked about it with regard to a decision the board would have to make regarding the specifications on the type of street light. and I guess a base requirement, because certain, neighborhoods and developments just have a pretty standard. Other developments we've seen have a little bit more elaborate, so some sort of base level specifications that would be required to be put into any subdivision plan, and I guess, and figure out in the law and go to the planning board if they're gonna make sure they include those, or if they're gonna have an upgraded version, but, I think we have to look at and get the idea of some sort of minimum specification. We know how we wanna change the law.
The way I read it is, we're paying for the energy use. They own the lights, and they're giving us 150 feet of wire for each light. Is that the way this is interpreted? That's the way I read it.
You're saying they, you mean National Grid?
National Grid, that's correct.
Okay.
You read through the proposal, they're giving you 150 feet of direct buried cable. They own the light. That's the way I read it. So if it's over more than 150, they're gonna come to us with another
I think
bill
that's
here.
probably true, but they're, for the annual fee, they are still replacing that light if it needs to be replaced. They're doing the maintenance on it, they're changing the bulbs if it has to be changed.
Right.
That's part of their charge. The example on that is Meadowbrook Acres, where they've agreed to replace one of the lamps for free. Well, not for free, for their charge. And they also have to do some painting on the other 6 or 7 that are there. 5 that are there?
I guess my point is, if they're giving us the lights and 150 feet of cable, we should, like you said, Councilman Hallway, we should have this done earlier in the process, because if they're paying for that anyhow, all we're paying for is the usage. We should incorporate that at the planning stages. That's my thought on it. I understand we're paying that $238 per light, but let's get it done earlier. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of, well, we recently got the request from the developer, but part of, if we amend our specifications for planning for a subdivision and say, you know, before we accept everything, besides needing the road, the curb, the storm sewer, whatever water, we need the lights there too. So that would be part of the initial installation and part of the acceptance of the project, as opposed to accepting it without those things. I guess, I don't know, the question is, and with the lights being there, if it's gonna change, dedicating them over to National Grid, are we gonna own them, or, and we have to repair them, or, besides the electric usage, or is that something that, with a fee, National Grid do they wanna take ownership, and they will repair them, or who's gonna maintain them as well, as opposed to this type of situation where we're paying an annual fee and they do pretty much everything for us?
Yeah, we'll probably have to ask National Grid what options we have. And the number of options on styles are crazy, but virtually every one we put in my 7 years has been this same light. Well, I think going forward, that's definitely the way to go. Yeah, Paul has standards that he works to. That would probably be the same standard you would pick up, because it's a state standard, and that becomes code. Okay, we're actually on a motion having to do with the 5 lights. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, then all in favor of putting these lights in place signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's approved.
The next motion I have is from Town Attorney's Office. It's lengthy, so it's as presented, and summarizing with the last paragraph, it is the moratorium resolved that local law number 6 of the year 2016, entitled Amendment to the Code of the Town of Wheatfield, placing an additional 3-month extension to the 6-month moratorium on ground-mounted solar panel and solar farm installations within the town is hereby approved, and direct the town attorney and town clerk to file said local law in the office of the New York Secretary of State. So it would be a 3-month extension of the moratorium for the solar law.
Does anybody wish to make this motion?
Second.
Moved by Art, second by Gil. Anything on the question? It probably would behoove us to plan for a public hearing on the changes are so drastic, we probably should have another actual public hearing on this issue, probably that second meeting in January. That gives us plenty of time to have Drew put this all together, what we talked about tonight, have us reread it. It could even go back through the planning board, it could even go back through it can't go through the full task force by the 23rd, but it could go through the energy group for final comment on as changed. I guess we can discuss that after we work on this. Anything further on the question? All in favor of extending the moratorium?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
You want to talk about setting that public hearing now, or at the end of the motion?
Probably at the end of the motion.
Okay. All right, next, motion from the Budget Director Department. It's a motion to approve the 2016 budget transfers, as presented.
Moved by Larry, second by Art. Anything on the question? Ed, again, thank you very much for all that you do. All in favor of these transfers? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion is to establish the 2017 Town Board meeting schedule as presented in the motion packet.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry, moved by Randy, second by Gil. For the benefit of the papers and anybody that wishes to know, there are a couple of Thursdays in there caught because of holidays. So that reorganization would be January 5th, Thursday, January 5th. And we will probably try and hold the agenda that evening at a regular meeting fairly short. So we can get everything done in one night. The second Thursday in September. All in favor of this schedule?
Aye.
Any opposed? And of course, that schedule can always be modified by the board.
Next motion came onto the supplemental motion sheet from the Water Sewer Department, as mentioned before. A motion to authorize an increase in the town of Wheatfield water rates of 10 cents per 1,000 gallons of usage. Said water rate increase will bring the rates per usage from $1.80 per 1,000 gallons to $1.90 per 1,000 gallons. And the increase would result in a minimum water billing being $19.95. The increase would be effective for water billings beginning 2017.
Second. Moved by Art, second by Randy. Ed and I have had a lot of discussion about these last 2 years. I think this last year shows that if it's a normal year, maybe this was a drier than normal year, but if it's a normal year, we probably don't have to raise it. So I'm probably not going to vote in favor, but I understand that our auditors and that our budget director are all thinking, as is our water superintendent, thinking that we do need to make this change. That being said, does anybody else have anything they wish to say? It was. place where we are on that fund is we have money in the fund, but a lot of that money that's in the fund are bills that haven't been paid yet. So they're essentially IOUs to the town by people that haven't paid their water sewer bills. Not because they haven't paid them on time, simply because they're not paid yet. So Ed and I have had that discussion about whether that's cash or not. And I'm probably going to vote no, but it's up to the board as to whether they want to go ahead. Anything else? All in favor of this change to the water rates?
Aye.
And I'll be a no, so it's 4-1, and that is approved.
Next motion from the Wheatfield Local Development Corporation. It's a motion to call for a public hearing for a community development block grant planning application, whereas the town board wishes to assess the advisability of submitting a community development block grant application to the New York State Office of Community Renewal for a grant to support the development of a brewery and brew pub at 6929 Williams Road by Summit Outlet LP, DBA Big Thunder Brewing Company, and whereas the town is required to hold a public hearing to provide information to the public and to consider citizen comments regarding community needs in the plan proposal prior to submitting an application for CDBG funding. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing whereat all interested parties shall be heard regarding the CDBG program, the town's community development and economic development programs, and the proposed funding application. Said public hearing will be held at the Wheatfield Town Hall, 2800 Church Road, Wheatfield, New York, 14120, at blank time of the blank date in blank of 2017. So the board, if proceeding forward with this motion, would need to set the hearing date and time.
Does somebody wish to make this motion?
So moved.
Moved by Gil, second by Larry. Gil, what date and time do you have in mind?
Well, the next meeting's the reorg, right? So we probably want it the 23rd.
We could do it the 23rd. If we're going to do this, why don't we do this before we do the hearing that we haven't yet set for solar? Just in case solar takes a while again.
That sounds fine.
So why don't we, how about 7 o'clock on the 23rd? Sound reasonable? Well, I guess Matt actually got that call from the consultant.
They would like it early in 2017, especially January. Well, January they would
Can
like
it
it.
be ready by the 5th?
I don't think they can be ready by the 5th. It was my understanding they were looking probably around our second meeting, from what I heard. So I don't believe the timeline for filing it is. I think they're fine from what I've heard on the 23rd. They were not calling for it. It had to be immediately the first meeting of January. And since it is our reorg meeting, we probably don't want to hold a public hearing then.
That's what hasn't been developed yet. The anticipated amount is substantial, but that's part of what they have to go through and present at that meeting.
Yeah, I believe they'll present that. I don't think it's been finalized, but I think that's part of what they will plan on presenting at the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. So we're then looking at 7 o'clock on the 23rd of January, 2017. Anything else on the question? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have that public hearing.
And the last item, it's not in either of the motion sheets, but it was as we indicated to schedule a public hearing for the amended solar law. I believe on that same date we'd like to shoot for the 23rd day of January 2017 here at the town hall. I guess we just need to set the time.
I'll go ahead and make that motion, and I would suggest 7:15. And if it takes a little longer and runs into the meeting, it does. Oh, I do need a second.
Second.
I guess I have a couple of seconds. Kathy, pick okay. So 7:15 on the 23rd. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
And that's all I have for motions this evening.
Okay. Councilman Hillig, anything?
The only thing I had, I guess, a question on on the GIS system. It works at home for me on Windows 7, but my PC here is Windows XP. I'm still getting the Silverlight. Is the new GIS site up? Richie's shaking his head no. Do you know when it'll be ready? Okay. Oh, okay. All I want for Christmas is my GIS.
Larry, when I talked to Heather up there, she said it would be sometime, mid-June,
Okay. Ed, you need to budget a new PC. This thing is old. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Gerbett.
Just a couple of quick notes. The Veterans Group is filling out the paperwork in the form of a grant from the county. We appreciate the help they're giving us, so we're filling that paperwork out. We'll get that to those folks post haste, just so you know. I went over it today. The town chiefs have been discussing again still the cul-de-sacs and turnaround tees, the topic of discussion of this board, certainly in the building department as well as our schools. It's still an ongoing discussion, and we need to finally, I think, summarize it. Mr. Supervisor, sometime this year, let's get it finalized and maybe make that our standard, if you will. The comprehensive planning work that they have done this year has been fantastic. They worked on the Greenway. They're working on, and actually have taken a look at the solar with a nice job put together by the solar group. The town planning group, as well as the veterans group. So I'm kind of proud of those folks. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. You don't see them here in meetings, but you do see the results of what they have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Doucette.
I have nothing.
Councilman Ritz.
I have nothing.
One blank also.
What about the building for, do we
Gonna
wanna
bring
go back
that
and
up.
revisit that?
Yeah, one of the things that we don't have a written motion on yet, we talked about at the last meeting, Kathy and Mike have covered a couple of different prices. So I guess we need a motion that to proceed, and then we can go into discussion on either or of the two proposals.
So I didn't prepare a written one because I don't think I saw them, but based on the discussion, I would phrase the motion is to, from the town clerk's office and from building inspection, to authorize and accept the lowest responsible bid for the renovations to the town clerk's office, but based on what was received could be equalized based on similar allowances for proposed renovations that were quoted with an allowance, and to equalize those. Once those are equalized, it's my understanding, at least what we've been told, is the lowest one from Schroeder Construction, and for that bid to be accepted as the lowest responsible bid once the allowances are equalized.
I think you said supervisor's office, and we did town clerk's office.
Okay. Town clerk and I think building inspection. I don't know if that's what I meant to say.
Okay. And you believe it's lawful under the circumstances to accept the Schroeder?
It is, as if we are going to equalize, and I don't know, and I guess the question is to Mike or Kathy, is if in the bid specs we requested a specific allowance for those particular things, and if we didn't, then I guess what we're doing is equalizing them.
I would feel a lot better if we had that.
This is way too loose. You can get us in a
I would
nine-way
feel a lot
bind.
better if this was spec'd out with the same materials and you gave us two prices. Just, that's my thought.
Yeah.
I had a question to our budget director. I'm looking at the last budget report, probably for the end of November, but just trying to see if we have enough money in the town clerk's budget to do this? It doesn't look like there is. I mean, I see $19,000 left for equipment and about $5,000 left for contractual. So right now, it looks like we're about $7,000 short and change. I mean, plus or minus 1,000, but we're probably about 6,000 or 7,000 short.
If we don't do this evening and we don't pass it this evening, then the entire thing will go into next year's budget.
The board certainly, doesn't have to move forward with it, as was indicated, if you want to seek it to be rebid directly from the contractors and from the equalize these allowances, and then I think, from what we've been told, they will come out reversing it, but certainly you can ask for the formal bids. You don't have to accept these at this point.
I think the point here, Mike, is that we haven't seen anything as far as standards or what you put forward as a guide spec.
But if we had that in writing, it'd be easy. I'm seeing McKelly at 25,000, and Schwoger at 30,000.
They don't have the detail, though. I mean, M.I. Kelly has just a flat price of $25,675. There's no breakout of any of that, although he has description of what he's going to do. And then Swoger has $4,700 for removing walls and ceiling tiles, $1,200 for doing this, $1,400, $750 for this, $1,500 for this. I mean, he's got everything broken out. This quote doesn't have anything broken out. So if they're bidding on the same specs, I'm not ready to vote on this tonight, but if you want to have a special meeting before the end of the year, if we have to use 2000, I don't mind coming in for, to consider this before the end of the year, but I was just presented these tonight, and I just,
Okay. At this point, we are at point where we need a motion to proceed. Does anybody wish to make a motion to proceed as Matt stated? We don't have it in writing, but as Matt stated, to accept the Schwager construction order. Does anybody wish to proceed with a motion to accept the Schwager construction order? Okay, so the motion's going to fail for lack of a mover. Do we need to reject these bids at this point, Matt?
I would, at this point, I don't, this was a informal quote procedure, so, I don't believe we need to reject them. I think, the procedure that we want to do so the board could take action is to ask the, perhaps ask the contractors to equalize or give them a specific, requirement for the cabins or a specific allowance so that they could present us with equalized bids in their own words. But since these were informal quotes, you don't necessarily have to reject them. We're just not going to accept them at this point.
Okay. So we do not have to have a motion on that. Our next meeting is the reorg meeting on January 5th at 7:15 p.m. That'll probably take 15 or 20 minutes. We will move on to a regular meeting after that so we can pay bills and take care of any other business that comes before us. Hopefully the agenda will not be very long that evening. We're back to public input. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on any subject before the council? David?
On behalf of myself and my colleagues at the county legislature, like the board, the district, and everybody here at this field, we're happy to take holiday for everybody.
Thank you for all you do for the town, Dave. Anybody else? Yes, Walt.
Don't these bids have to be done off testing? Taking the same day?
The first time it was done, it was pretty loose. There wasn't really much for specifications. Mike went back and...
Up and make specs, and then you guys put the same test, you don't have to worry about it. See
Well,
how it goes. Do a standalone order. As long as they go by specs. It's up to him to get the specs.
right, well, that's what's missing at this point, at least in our hands.
I was in the business, I know. You gotta have specs to live in.
I'll tell you how it's because they have to design criteria for the cabins themselves. I'm trying to get some numbers so we can do this precise. Because one contractor was good enough to give us specific layout. It was not one of them that would meet that. There was another contractor who did. That was, that's him again. Maybe it's gonna hurt to allow cabinet allowance.
Yeah, if we go out and we have this designed by the end... Yeah, if we go out... Thank you for your comment, Walt. Okay, anybody else, any comments? Yes, sir. The one that's along River Road in the town of Tonawanda, once you come up the hill, there's a couple of businesses there, and then there's an array on your left. Is that what you're talking about on a single pole?
Not quite sure, not quite sure. It's literally one pole, it stands about 15 feet high, with 12 boxes, and I got one single pole that
Yeah, I think that's sort of what that one is, because I know they do move.
they're more ISD and they're more dedicated to pitch array, 30 feet.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on any subject? If not, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I do want to say Merry Christmas to all and Happy Holidays. Hope you enjoy the season. It's starting to feel like winter. Mike, we do have a Winter Fest coming up. January 28th. Should be a good day. Come rain or come shine. Then Kathy, do you have something? It's 2 minutes to 9. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.